Yes, people, we're here again. We're covering transfers. So we did the morning session where we covered the Liverpool news. We spoke about my team, Liverpool, with Jeremy Frimpong. We spoke about Florian Wirtz. We spoke about Gyökeres, etc. But we are talking about Manchester City and Arsenal and Victor Osimhen. Where is he going to go? Make sure you're subscribing to the channel. It's important you do so. Make sure you are subscribing. So yeah, we're going to be speaking about Reinders potentially going to Manchester City with Fabrizio Romano. As you can see on your screens, Man City will submit a bid. So we're going to be speaking about that. We're going to be speaking about William Saliba with Real Madrid and Osimhen. Where is he going to go? Rodrygo, could he be going to Arsenal or to Manchester City? So let's dive straight into it. So Fabrizio Romano, Manchester City will submit a formal opening bid to AC Milan for Reinders in the up-and-coming weeks. Reinders wants to focus on the final games of the season with Milan, and Man City respect that. They will bid follow next, as he's the main target as the 8. This would be a class signing for Man City. Man City adding depth into their midfield again. You know, as I've been speaking about it for some time. You know, Man City are going to be back. And it's unfortunate, man. You know, they've had a disappointing season to their standards over the past, 10 years? You could argue it's probably their worst season in 10 years. Something like that. And the fact that, you know, they spent £200 million in January on Nico Gonzalez, etc., and Marmoush, which have been decent signings. And now for the summer, it's looking like they're going to be doing even more business. And this is scary. If I'm being honest, as a competitor in the Premier League, as my club, Liverpool, challenged for the Premier League title, I am worried 110%, because you could argue the biggest problems at Manchester City this season has been the midfield. Without having that conductor, that destroyer, the Ballon d'Or winner in Rodri there, is a big reason why they have completely fallen off this season. Almost ended up winning, one game in like 14 games? And why that was one of the reasons. And Manchester City now look like they mean business. You know, you look at their owners in Cardoon. They're very ambitious. They like to win trophies. I mean, you've seen what they've done for the city of Manchester alone. Is just absolute out of this world. And the fact now they're going to come into this transfer window and spend again. Yeah, make sure you're smashing up the likes. Man City will be back. I do think Man City will be back. People saying that Manchester City won't be back next season, I think, is absolute madness, if I'm being truly honest, because it looks like they're going to get Reinders, to be honest with you, the bid. And it looks like they're probably going to go get Morgan Gibbs-White. And on top of Marmoush, on top of, you know, the world-class players they already have in Erling Haaland, in Phil Foden, you know, there's still some good young project players there, like your Savinho's example, who I think, me personally, will come good for Manchester City. And you look at City, right? They could potentially win the FA Cup and get Champions League football in their worst season in 10 years. Now, in hindsight, that's probably not a bad season, a lot of people would say. Top four, you get Champions League football and you win a domestic cup. That's a good season. The Manchester City standards over the past 10 years, it's not. You know, they're used to winning 4 in a row, trebles, back-to-backs, 100 points, 90-plus points in title races. And now, you know, it's looking like that, you know, they are going to spend big this summer. You know, they spent 200 million, you know, with the court case allegedly coming up. That's been in the ranks for the past couple of months. They're saying, yeah, we're going to find out in January, then it's February, then it's March, then it's April, now it's in May. My opinion, I reckon it's all going to be revealed after the season. And then they're not going to be guilty, and hence why they're going to spend loads of money this summer, because surely you won't be spending loads of money this summer on players like Morgan Gibbs-White, Reinders, who are decent players, if you are going to be guilty. Now, that doesn't mean fully down, oh yeah, that they're 100% not guilty, this and this and this. I'm not saying that whatsoever, but it's a big indicator to say that they probably are not guilty. Because I just don't think you go and spend big money on players if you're going to get done by the Premier League. I just don't think you do. And that's just my opinion, if I'm being honest. I don't know why that's playing. That's just my opinion on it. And yeah, I think it's a good signing for Manchester City. I think it adds legs into their midfield, which they needed. I think you look at the players like Bernardo Silva, Kovacic, players have just not been good enough for them this season. Imitation Nunes, another one. You know, if you can have a potential midfield next season of Morgan Gibbs-White, Reinders, and Rodrygo again, and potentially even Wirtz, what's to say they're not going to be back next season, man? And plus, I think they will need to sort out a bit of the defensive areas as well. I think they need to bring in probably another centre back, maybe a full back or two, and probably sort out the goalkeeper situation, because it looks like Edison is probably going to leave the club. So I think that's what they are all focusing on, if I'm being honest. But that isn't all on Manchester City, because there was reports Rodrygo. Now, what a class signing this would be. So, yeah, Rodrygo potentially. So Manchester City and Arsenal are in contact to sign Real Madrid forward Rodrygo. Reports that the Brazilian has fallen out with the club, which he has denied on social media. AS, which is a source in Spain. And obviously, Rodrygo did come out on his Instagram and social media saying, "Don't believe the lies." I think that is not indicating that he's not going to leave. I think that's more or less due to the fact that there was rumors about him not playing in the El Clasico and things like that. There was heavy rumors about that. I think that's what himself was indicating at that. That's just the case. Like, this is, don't believe the rumors about me not wanting to play in the Clasico. You know, I think people are lying about that situation. But obviously, these are you know, the reports. And yeah, look, I mean, Arsenal obviously in that race. I mean, to be fair, we've seen a lot about Arsenal in the past couple of days regarding Rodrygo. And you probably say, who needs him more? You'd probably say, I think both of them, you could argue, need Rodrygo. And for Arsenal and Manchester City, I think Manchester City need depth in that attack. I think Arsenal need it to really elevate their attack. Jacob, who is a Liverpool fan, says, "Man, I want Rodrygo." Yeah, same. I mean, I'd be jealous if this signing actually came to fruition, that either a Manchester City or an Arsenal could sign Rodrygo. I'd be absolutely jealous. I can't lie. I would absolutely be jealous. And Rodrygo this season, I actually think he's been good. A lot of people will indicate he's not all, but look at his stats. 30 games, 6 goals and 5 assists. And in the Champions League, 5 goals and 2 assists. People say, oh, that much money for 70, 80 million. I think Rodrygo can go up a level or two. I really do. You are forgetting he's playing out of position. He's not playing in that left wing role as to where he is used to, you know. Obviously, he's just not going to get the left wing role because Vinny Jr. is there. And obviously, you've got Mbappe as well, who wants to play off the left. You know, Rodrygo potentially could come to the Premier League because he's not going to go anywhere else in Spain. Ligan, PSG. Could he go to PSG? You've got Kvaratskhelia there. You've got Ezri Doué. You've got Ousmane Dembele. Maybe. But I feel like Rodrygo's ambitious, if I'm being honest. And that's no disrespect to Paris Saint-Germain. I know they're in the Champions League final, but in terms of competing in bigger and better leagues, Bundesliga, no. But then I won't be surprised if Bayern have an interest in him. You know, yeah. Now I won't be surprised if Bayern Munich have an interest in him. You know, that won't really be a shock if I'm being truly honest. But I think he either stays at Manchester City or you either go to Manchester City, or Arsenal. Maybe a Liverpool. Chelsea, could they be in the hat for him? You know, I think that's something. You know, I can imagine Chelsea definitely being in the hat for Rodrygo. Remember, I think I saw a report actually not long back that he actually, I think what was his name? Yeah, Rodrygo and Chelsea. There was actually a couple of links there, so I wouldn't be surprised if you saw potentially that could potentially be on the cards. It's all about what Rodrygo wants and what Real Madrid want to do. You know, Real Madrid might fancy bringing in some new attackers. I think it's Real Madrid's that type of club. If a player doesn't want to be there, they will sell him. If Rodrygo does not want to be at Real Madrid, he will be sold. I think it's very much as simple as that. And obviously Arsenal, they're obviously linked with, and obviously they're linked to Victor Gyökeres as well. They've obviously also got Martin Zubimendi in. I think if Arsenal got all three of those, they're definitely going to be one of the top hot favourites for the title. You know, because you've actually boosted that attack, you've improved your midfield, and Zubimendi as well. Obviously, you know, bringing in Victor Gyökeres, that deal looks like it's getting ever so closer for Arsenal. So it's going to be interesting to see how this story does play out, or if it's just one of those ones where it's just a paper talk and people are just, you know, chatting rubbish. But we'll obviously have to wait and see. Sticking with Arsenal now, I did see Arsenal about William Saliba. Real Madrid still want William Saliba in the future, even after Huijsen signing. Now, I did see that, you know, it looks like Saliba is obviously their dream target. You know, despite signing Huijsen, despite having Eden Militao at the football club, despite we also being linked to Ibrahim Konate as well, I think it is inevitable. I think it just depends on a matter of when Saliba goes to Real Madrid. A bit like the transfer situation that we've been having the past couple of months. He's down to 2 years, and a big situation needs to happen at Arsenal now, because you've seen what happens with Liverpool. You've seen what happens with many clubs. That Real Madrid like to sign these players on big free contracts. Why spend 150 million, 100 million? We can wait till a year or two. It'll be better and we can get you for free. Do you know what I mean? And obviously that's where they taunt them with the signing on bonuses and the decent contracts that Real Madrid can offer players. So I do expect this will happen in the next 2 years. I think what Arsenal might try and do is just try and give him a new contract so it keeps the value in Saliba. If, as the years go by, that contract does start to go down. But then I did see this. So Fabrizio did come out and say this about William Saliba. My information is that Real Madrid understood at the beginning of May that signing William Saliba this summer was impossible. For Arsenal, he's a crucial player and they're discussing a new contract. Arsenal will have the ball in their court to close to an agreement, keep Saliba at the club and extend his contract. Real Madrid position is clear. They will sign Dean Huijsen now, but Saliba remains a dream target for them. So it's looking like it's probably not going to happen this summer. William Saliba to Arsenal, to Real Madrid. But it's going to happen in the near future. It is going to happen in the near future. Moving on to some other topics. I did see Osimhen talk. Where will Osimhen go this summer? I think that's an interesting transfer. Let me pull up the tweets regarding Mr. Victor Osimhen. So BBC Sport, the 26-year-old striker duo Victor Osimhen and Victor Gyökeres are both thought to be available for around 60 million this summer. Obviously, one of them is a release clause in Gyökeres, and obviously one of them is Victor Osimhen. If you can get Victor Osimhen for £60 million, that is an absolute bargain. You look, he's probably going to be cheaper than Sesko. He's probably going to be cheaper maybe than NTTK, who I think will probably both be costing around about 60 to 70 million. The fact that potentially you could actually get Victor Gyökeres and Osimhen, both of them for the same price of Isak. I would love my club to be an all-in on one of these two deals because, they're world-class strikers and they will come in and score you minimum 20 Premier League goals a season, in my opinion. And for 60 million, again, it's not like you're breaking the bank, really. I think what it comes down to with Osimhen and Gyökeres, it would be actually the personal terms. And what I mean is in terms of like trying to convince that player to come to your club, I think in paying the £60 million, I don't think it's necessarily too difficult. I think it more or less comes down to the fact of where that player wants to go. Because it obviously looks like, obviously Osimhen is on loan at Galatasaray currently right now. He is going to be leaving Napoli this summer. Obviously, he's on loan. So potentially you could see a bidding war that could be possible. It depends on how bad the interest and how bad these clubs are trying to sign these players. I think, it's 60, 70 million will get done. I think Osimhen will probably cost you more in wage structure, but I think it's just worth it. You look at name me three strikers that are concrete available this summer that are world class. Okay, not world class, that are elite and good, that takes a team to the next level. Gyökeres, Victor Osimhen. So Victor Osimhen and Gyökeres. Isak, he's not available. It's looking like Isak is not going to be available to leave Newcastle this summer. You're looking at the next barrel. You're looking at your TKs. You're looking at your Seskos. You're leaving Delaps. It's like, surely someone's going to take a punt on one of these. And it's going to be very, very interesting to see who will do that. But that is just a quick transfer roundup. Where is Osimhen going to go? Is he going to Chelsea? Could he be going somewhere else? I haven't I'll keep an eye out potentially on Osimhen and Man U. I don't know. I've got a weird feeling Man U could come in for someone like an Osimhen, potentially, depending on if they win the Europa League, because the money that will generate, and obviously Champions League football. If I was a predicting man, I think Osimhen ends up at Chelsea, and I think Gyökeres ends up at Arsenal. That's personally what I think. But yeah, just to recap, Man City looks like they are going to be pending a bid in for Reinders in the hope to rebuild their midfield. Saliba looks like he's going to be staying at Arsenal, but Real Madrid do still want him. And obviously, Rodrygo, is he going to Arsenal? Is he going to City? Or is it all a big farce and he's staying at Real Madrid this season? I guess we're going to have to wait and see on that. But make sure you're smashing up the likes, you're subscribing to the channel. And I'm sure we'll be back very soon with some more transfer news. Take care.